30 down, just 3 to go. When we last left you on our countdown of the Super Bowl era's most disappointing teams, we were looking at the 1987 New York Giants, defending Super Bowl champions. We've got a Super Bowl runner-up at number 3, but before we get to them, let's talk about C-Score, our very own metric designed to give a proper and thorough evaluation of every NFL team during the Super Bowl era, beyond just looking at its record. For a deeper explanation about how C-Score works, be sure to check out the description of this video. There is but one pathway to make it onto this list. An NFL team will complete a season with a positive C-score. They will then complete another season with an increased C-score that is at the same time higher than 15. They will then complete a third season with a negative C-score, with this one serving as the disappointment. The larger the drop from season 2 to season 3, the higher that disappointment will rank. After knocking on the door for a few years, the Oakland Raiders finally advanced to the Super Bowl after the 2002 season. Little did they know the horrors that lay beyond that door. It's from the next season, in 2003, that we find our number 3 entry. Thank you so much for joining us, not only today, but for this series as well. Give this video a like, share it around, subscribe to the channel, and ding that notification bell. It does us quite a solid. It's off to the black hole we go. Coming off a very strong 2000 season, the Raiders were still pretty darn good in 2001. They won the AFC West at 10-6 on the backs of a high-scoring offense. Their defense and schedule strength left a little to be desired, but that C-score was still solid at 11.054. Oakland hosted and defeated the New York Jets in the wildcard round of the playoffs before taking a trip to snowy Foxborough, Massachusetts to take on the surprising New England Patriots. I think we mostly know what happened here. It was one season earlier where Rich Gannon was forced out of the AFC Championship game on a play that would 20 million% be a penalty today. Still stinging from that controversial loss, the Raiders got another one put on the ledger. Only 3 words need to be spoken here: the Tuck Rule. After that, Adam Vinatieri made the greatest field goal in NFL history, and the Raiders were ignominiously taken out of the playoffs for a second straight season. It's really hard not to let one apple spoil the bunch here, but Oakland still had a season to remember for good reasons. They made by far the most impactful free agency signing of a 38-year-old wide receiver by bringing in Jerry Rice, who did Jerry Rice things like only Jerry Rice can. Their 6 losses were all by a single possession and by a grand total of only 24 points. And Charles Woodson was in his 4th Pro Bowl in 4 seasons. There was some concern about an aging roster, but by and large the results were there. The Super Bowl window was still open, and their owner was hungry to get one more Lombardi trophy. 2002 was gonna need to be that time. 12 AFC teams finished 500 or better in 2002. 9 of them finished with winning records, but only the Raiders and the Tennessee Titans got as high as 11-5. The Raiders beat the Titans though, giving them the number 1 seed. This was an excellent team that was obscured by that record, as their C-score lands at 26.022. How excellent was this team? How about top 6 finishes in points scored, points allowed, and strength of schedule? Since the 1970 merger, when the NFL had a minimum of 26 teams per season, These are the other 5 teams to accomplish this feat. Since the expansion to 32 teams, only the 2009 Patriots joined the Raiders here, and they barely do so. Oakland suffered an odd 4-game losing streak after opening the season at 4-0, including 2 overtime home losses, before going on a tear in the second half. They did all of this without the head coach who brought them out of the shadows just 4 seasons earlier, Jon Gruden. We brought up the Raiders owner without mentioning him by name. Of course, we are talking about the one and only Al Davis. Philosophical differences between Gruden and Davis arose over the years, which then became personal, with Gruden unlikely to continue as the Raiders coach beyond his current contract, and with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looking to make a splash hiring, having already missed their first choice in 49ers head coach Steve Mariucci, a perfect storm had arrived. And just like that, Jon Gruden was the head coach of the Bucs. Under new head coach Bill Callahan, the Raiders did what they could not do under Gruden. They made it to the Super Bowl. So too, though, did the Buccaneers, now under Gruden. One problem for Oakland, outside of the whole Barrett Robbins situation, they didn't really change anything under Callahan, and the Bucs pretty much knew what was coming in that game, resulting in a 48-21 blowout where the Bucs scored an unbelievable 3 defensive touchdowns. Other Super Bowls have had larger margin of victories, but there was something about this game that made it feel worse than any of those. Down but not completely out, the Raiders were resolved to give it one more go in 2003. Oh boy. Alright, let's just get into this. The 2003 Oakland Raiders were simply terrible. Their strength of schedule ranking may have improved, but the actual strength of that schedule dropped slightly. To then see everything else crater is a bit jarring. 4-12, a negative 109 point differential, and in the bottom 10 in both points scored and points allowed. This kind of performance wreaks havoc on a team's C-score, and here now we have these Raiders at negative 15.724. While the roster officially had a lower average age in 2002 than it did in 2001, they added John Perella, Bill Romanowski, and Rod Woodson to the defense, combined age 106, an average of more than 35 per player. The Raiders' leading passer in 2002, their 5 leading rushers from the running back position, and their 2 leading receivers at wide receiver checked in at a total age of 267, nearly 33 and a half years old per player. Every one of these players were at least 30, including 5 different running backs, where the aging curve generally takes a sharp decline at 30. Just about every single one of these players came back in 2003, along with other 30-plus-year-olds, and a fresh crop of new ones having celebrated that particular birthday this year. In all, 19 different players, 30 years or older, played for Oakland this season. There's not a rule that says football players stop becoming good after 30. Many players can even hit their peak during this time. But holy smokes, 19 makes for a lot of players, and yeah, none of them were peaking. NFL rosters have aged out before, but none so spectacularly as this team. All this information was widely known, of course, but the Raiders remained among the favorites to win the Super Bowl. At 12-1, they were tied for the 4th shortest odds in the entire NFL, with only the Miami Dolphins bigger favorites in the AFC. The aging roster was likely seen as seasoned, ready to make one last run. But things fell apart quite swiftly after a 2-2 start. 6 different times these Raiders failed to score more than 10 points in a game. 6 different times they allowed at least 27 points in a game. They had a handful of other closer losses, but they only won one game themselves by multiple possessions, none by more than 10 points. It got so bad that head coach Bill Callahan had this to say in part: "We've got to be the dumbest team in America in terms of playing the game. It's embarrassing, and I represent that." Yep, you sure did, Bill. 1 year after appearing in the Super Bowl as a rookie head coach, Bill Callahan was fired with a losing record in the regular season. He was never an NFL head coach again, except for on an interim basis. In the same way, a stadium implosion can be accomplished much more rapidly than the construction of that stadium, so too did the 2003 Oakland Raiders completely fall apart in such short order. From the second place team in the NFL to the second pick in the NFL draft, seemingly overnight. What an absolute disappointment. And with that disappointment comes a disappointment score. They kept it barely within a point of the 87 Giants, taking this third spot at negative 41.746. Only 2 teams remain. It was bad enough for the teams that we have already seen. How much worse can it get for our number 2 entry? Be sure to join us for the release of that video to find out who it's gonna be. When the Raiders defeated the Tennessee Titans to make it to Super Bowl 37 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there was no way to know that that would be their final playoff victory for at least 23 more years. It's easy to forget that they were favorites to win that Super Bowl. From 2003 to 2024, the Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders have won exactly 100 games fewer than they have lost. That's the second worst mark in the entire league during that time, behind only the Cleveland Browns. Moreover, they have been 4th worst in points scored, allowed the most points, had the worst point differential, had only 5 non-losing seasons, just 2 winning seasons, just 2 playoff appearances, and of course, 0 playoff wins. This decades-long disappointment was birthed right here in 2003. Let me know your thoughts about this Raiders team, the subsequent collapse of the Raider franchise, anything Raiders related, or anything else you have on your mind, right down there in the comments section. Thank you once again for taking some time with us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.